If you're sick and tired of your porn habits screwing up your life, but are struggling to quit, then you are in luck. Because in this video, I'm going to be kicking off my brand new series called The Porn-Free Path, where I'll be updating my previous content on quitting porn with all the additional insights that I've gained through the years of doing this work. And in this episode, we are going to be kicking things off by laying out the top 10 main reasons to quit porn so that we can stoke up a fiery motivation that will inspire and empower you to complete the challenging yet incredibly rewarding journey of getting clean. My name is Mark Kweppett, and not to toot my own horn, but I'm one of the OGs in the porn recovery space. Way back in 2013, I was one of the very first guys to talk about quitting porn from a first-person perspective. Not only does this put me at over a decade of sobriety myself, during that time, I've been working as a professional men's coach, garnering millions of views online and helping thousands of guys get clean from porn through my programs and one-on-one coaching. In this series, I'm going to be laying out the most powerful insights, tips, tricks, and strategies for getting clean and staying clean from porn. And in this video, we're going to be starting with the very first step, which is finding your why. Because, well, I'm not going to lie to you. Just like anything worth doing, quitting porn is a sacrifice that will require you to face some discomfort. And in order to get through that discomfort, you're going to need to have a clear, strong, and compelling reason why you want to quit. So to help you with this, we're going to walk through the 10 biggest reasons why you should quit porn and what you stand to gain from it. We'll be breaking the first 9 points down into kind of like 3 main categories, and then I'll hit you with the biggest reason why you should quit porn with number 10. So make sure you stick around for that one if you want to get seriously fired up. So let's get into it, all right? And the first big category has to do with fixing your dopamine, all right? And what does this mean? Well, you see, by displaying an infinite number of virtual sexual mates to the limbic part of your brain, porn acts as what they would call a hypernormal stimuli, i.e. it's a completely unnatural thing that our brain is not designed to handle. You can see more sexy women in a few minutes of browsing the internet than your hunter-gatherer ancestors would have seen in a lifetime. Basically, this means that your brain gets massively excited by, this porn viewing and subsequently releases like narcotic levels of dopamine, the neurotransmitter that's, tied to anticipation and interest. The issue is that constantly nuking your brain with these massive dopamine spikes from porn, it has really negative effects on your brain. And so fixing these dysfunctions are some of the first reasons that should inspire you to quit porn. And this brings us to reason to quit porn number 1. It'll help you reclaim natural pleasure. You see, when your brain is used to getting so much pleasurable dopamine from porn, regular pleasures stop registering as enjoyable. Simple things like steady progress toward goals, connecting with family and friends, or even basic stuff like enjoying time outdoors and touching some grass stop seeming appealing. And it's very hard to succeed in life when anything productive feels like a massive slog that you have tons of resistance around. But by quitting porn, you will resensitize your brain to enjoy natural pleasures. Little things like going for a walk, a meal with family, and simply being productive doing regular life stuff will start feeling much more meaningful and rewarding again. And this basic principle of being able to, enjoy normal things again, it leads to a massive improvement in your focus, okay? So, porn really screws up your ability to focus because in order to focus well, your dopamine must be able to hook into the task at hand so that you can fall into a flow state. But since porn damages that healthy flow of dopamine, you'll often end up feeling like this ADHD squirrel. I remember back when I was hooked on porn, I could maybe focus on work for 10 to 20 minutes max before I found myself needing a break to scroll, fap, game, or whatever. And, I'm no expert on this, but I believe that the massive increase in ADHD diagnoses are in large part a result of guys blasting their brain with cheap dopamine and destroying their focus capacity. But when you quit porn, these focus issues can either dramatically improve or outright disappear. Where a few minutes of focus was hard for me when I was using porn, I can now comfortably log a 3 to 4 hour deep work session, no problem. I can basically be as productive as I want, and that is incredibly freeing. In fact, I've come to crave productivity and deep work because the dopamine it now releases for me, which is literally like a superpower. I loved spending hours creating this video, and I've seen the same thing happen to other guys as well. I've seen guys double, triple, or even 5x their productivity once they get clean. Just think about it, all right? Say you could massively increase your ability to focus. Like, what would that do for your career? What could you accomplish? What would that do to your financials, right? How much more money could you get? How much more could you get ahead in your chosen path or in your profession, right? If you could just really focus. Well, all that starts to become possible as long as you get porn out of your life so it can stop screwing up your brain. And this brings us now to our third reason for quitting porn, which is increased life clarity. You see, when your dopamine is all jacked up by porn and you can't properly enjoy things or focus, it's very difficult to figure out what you want to do in life because everything seems hard and unappealing. Many guys who struggle plotting their course in life while they're using porn experience big breakthroughs once they are off it. And this is because they are now able to more clearly understand what they want in life. And then they also have an increased ability and desire to actually take action toward what they want. Imagine how incredible it would be to reclaim your internal compass that could guide you to your most fulfilling life, right? You could kind of just look inside yourself and be like, oh yeah, that's where I want to go. And I believe I can get there, right? It gives you a way to plot out how you want to tackle your career goals, your self-development, your relationships, anything else that you need to navigate. If all of that stuff is just, that navigation system is just constantly clouded and disrupted through porn use, it's very difficult to make good life progress and to feel any sort of clarity and confidence in what you are doing. So to summarize this category, basically quitting porn will make you way more clear and productive. Okay, so now let's move on to the next big category, which is all about improving your personality. So porn, it tends to have a huge impact on the way that you think, feel, and how you show up in the world. And by quitting porn, I've repeatedly seen guys make massive improvements to their mental health. You see, porn can cause like a huge increase in the levels of depression, anxiety, and emotional instability you feel on a day-to-day basis. And if you just do any digging into the porn recovery communities, I can 100% guarantee you that you will see massive evidence of this. Basically, it's just kind of like really difficult for a porn user to feel jazzed on life and confident out in the world. Partially, that's due to what porn does to your brain, kind of like all that dopamine stuff we were talking about previously, but also because of how much it knocks you off course from living as someone that you're proud of being. So if you struggle with depression and anxiety, just kind of look at your own life and see how much do those spikes in depression and anxiety also line up with porn use. It kind of becomes, in many ways, a vicious cycle where, depression, anxiety lead to porn use, which makes you feel more depressed and anxious, which makes you want to reach for porn more. And then you have this really horrible downward negative spiral. But the good news is that when guys get clean, they almost always report major improvements to their mental health. They'll feel less anxious, they'll feel more confident, and generally happier and more engaged with life. And obviously, this has a huge impact on your personality. Instead of just living in that negative fog of constant dopamine hangover, you can start showing up as a more vibrant and engaged version of yourself. Speaking of this brings us to our next point, where quitting porn will help you go from a consumer to a creator, okay? So when you use porn, it's pretty inevitable that you become much more what I call this consumer, like the coomer who consumes, right? Basically, it turns you into a lowbrow dopamine guzzling goblin who is just looking for that next easy dopamine hit. And obviously that dopamine hit could come through porn, but it also tends to ripple out into a lack of discipline and dysfunctional indulgence in every area of life. What happens is that if you train your brain to expect constant, easy pleasure, then instead of being a unique individual with fascinating interests and goals, you just turn into a battery for the matrix of the dopamine industrial complex who's just looking to suck you dry and line their pockets. A regular porn user then is far more likely to be hooked on gaming, scrolling, junk food, and other low value but high stimulation habits. And then he's much more likely to just be that guy who's always talking about the newest meme or the internet drama or the video game, okay? And when you quit porn, instead of being focused on all that consumption-based stuff, you regain your capacity to become a creator, all right? You're not just trying to consume. Your focus becomes on what do you create, right? You become a guy who actively builds an intentionally designed life where he makes things, he learns stuff, and he has things to share with those around him. And frankly, this kind of guy is far more interesting both to be and interact with. So now on to reason number 6. Quitting porn will help you reclaim your integrity. You see, for most guys with serious moral or religious aspirations, porn can be a massive source of guilt and shame. This dirty little secret that you need to keep hidden from your friends, family, and significant other, making you doubt often like who the heck you are and what you actually care about. And if you take your spiritual or moral life seriously, I don't know of many more things that could disrupt your higher connection to goodness than porn. So by quitting porn, it's like you can finally, stand tall and live totally authentically. Like I can't describe the feeling of peace and confidence that comes from knowing that if someone ever hacked your webcam or cell phone camera, they wouldn't get any sort of dirt on you. I mean, I've literally had a scammer try that on me one time. He was trying to, blackmail me for money because he said he had videos of me jerking off and using porn. And honestly, I just burst out laughing, and I was chuckling to myself about it the rest of the day because I know I didn't do any of that stuff. I knew he didn't have any of those videos. And wouldn't you like to be able to do that rather than, oh shoot, go into a panic mode that, some compromising stuff might exist. So in summary here, if you quit porn, I don't see how you could dodge improving the way that you show up in the world, improving your personality, your vibe, your aura. All right. And then this has a direct effect on our next big point. Quitting porn will help you improve your romantic life. I mean, obviously, porn is a sexual activity, so of course it negatively affects your sexual relationships. And so we'll start with the obvious. Quitting porn makes you more attractive. All right. I don't think we can argue with this one, because by simply considering the reduction in productivity and the hit to your personality that porn causes, you will be fundamentally less attractive to women than you otherwise could be if you're hooked on porn. Right. And so quitting porn will let you become more competent, more disciplined, and likely far more successful. And so if you do that, then of course you're going to become more attractive to women. And further, many women, especially ones of moral character, they view porn as a bad thing. It's something they really don't like in guys, and I think that's very understandable. But by not being the kind of guy who uses porn, it makes you seriously stand out as a man. It makes you something special. It makes you a catch. But it doesn't stop there, because quitting porn will help increase your romantic charisma. Okay. And the reason for this is because there are countless verbal and nonverbal cues that pass between people in a romantic context. And if your brain is fried by porn, then you're just not going to be able to be present and cultivate that authentically attractive vibe of romantic tension. Right? I think we all kind of know this. If you've just been, fapping yourself silly with some porn, it's going to really inhibit your ability to attentively stare into a woman's eyes, to talk to her and to be really connected with her, because you're too distracted by maybe her cleavage or the other women around you or the fantasies in your own head or whatever sort of other junk is floating around in your dopamine-addled mind, right? And if you can't have that connection, if you can't be fully present, well, it's really going to inhibit your ability to stoke that romantic mood. However, by getting clean, you make it almost impossible to not be deeply present and tuned in with a woman you have romantic interest in, because instead of all your sexual energy flowing into the gutter via porn, it's instead driving you into deeper and fuller romantic connection. This effect is so pronounced that guys often refer to it as one of the superpowers of quitting porn, where women take far more notice of you. You hold yourself differently, your eye contact's different, right? But also I think you notice women differently. You can pick up better on their cues and you can respond to them. And a lot of this just happens on the level of the unconscious. And when porn's there, it just disrupts that whole, vibrational unity that you're seeking to build in romance. And this brings us to one of the most critical reasons to quit porn: improving your sexual health. I've found that in helping a lot of guys quit porn, that one of the most insanely frustrating and destructive elements of a porn addiction is the sexual dysfunction that it can cause. Basically, by training your brain to think that sex is something that happens with a cell phone in your hand, your brain and body will fail to respond to real sex. And this could be in the form of erectile dysfunction, delayed ejaculation, extreme fetishes, a total lack of attraction to real women, or even much worse things that I frankly don't want to get into here, but I have helped guys deal with. And for context, all right, the rate of erectile dysfunction for men in their 20s, early in the 1900s, was less than 1%. Right? There was no one in their 20s who was having trouble getting it up. But now, somewhere between 8 and 20% of guys in their 20s struggle to stay hard in the bedroom. You know, they're getting prescribed Viagra in their 20s, which is literally insane. And the guys who struggle with these sort of things, you know, they're haunted by it. Like, no dude wants his wiener to stop working. And beyond it being humiliating, it can really destroy a romantic relationship when healthy sexual connection becomes impossible. You know, I've coached a lot of guys around this who have, you know, had girlfriends break up with them, or, you know, things are on the rocks with their wife because they just can't connect sexually. But here's the good news, okay? Quitting porn will massively improve these problems and in most cases actually fix them entirely, as long as you stay off the porn, you're not masturbating, and you get yourself reacclimated to real sex. It can take a little while, and I'll talk more about these kinds of things in future videos, but you know, the key is you gotta quit the porn. That's the big kind of crux that throws the whole sexual system off. Now, if all of these reasons weren't enough to quit porn, then I want to now share with you what I believe to be is the biggest and most powerful reason. Quitting porn is the ultimate rite of passage for the modern man. You see, in pre-modern times, most societies had rites of passage where boys became men. And it signified that they had transitioned out of childhood and were ready to start walking through the world with the responsibilities, respect, and privileges of a man. Often these things would require the man passing some kind of test, like maybe he had to go kill an animal or be able to memorize and perform some sort of religious ceremony or do something else that basically proved their competence. However, these sort of things have been totally lost in modern times, and I do not believe it is entirely coincidence that most men today are basically living in an extended adolescence. And we actually have a term for it. We call it being a man-child, right? And if you look at all the characteristics of a man-child, they overlap perfectly with the negative symptoms of porn use. And so by quitting porn, you stop suckling like a babe on the demonic teat of sexual comfort, and you start learning how to master your masculinity. And what's even better is that once you quit porn, you can basically do just about anything else you put your mind to, because it takes significant discipline and dedication to pull this off. It requires you to really start to understand yourself and figure out how to control yourself, how to master yourself. But once you complete this process, really any other challenge seems almost easy in comparison. By quitting porn and masturbation, you set yourself fundamentally apart from other men, and you set yourself up to operate among the masculine elite in the world. So my friends, I deeply hope that this video helped you find your why when it comes to quitting porn. And I would love it if you let me know in the comments below which point resonated with you most strongly. Now, if you find yourself in the position where you're like, fired up, you want to quit, but then you're worried because you've tried to quit porn in the past and you've never been able to pull it off and you really want to know how to do it right, then what I want you to do is make sure that you check out the free training that I prepared in the description below. In it, I'll introduce you to the most powerful tactics and best practices that will make quitting porn as smooth and as simple as possible. These are hard-fought insights that have taken me decades of in-the-trenches work helping countless guys beat this habit. So click that link and grab that training now. And finally, if you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and all that jazz so that you do not miss the next video in this series. All right, I'll see you on the front lines. Stay clean. Ooyap.